Welcome to the first episode for the Stacked Podcast in a very long time. For our long-time followers, this is actually something we did a while back, and for 2019, we've basically decided to bring back our podcast with a very similar format where we simply run over some of the most exciting stories that we shared on our website, Stack3d.com, and just summarize them up, give a little bit extra. And we also will be doing a special guest feature on a story, hopefully every week, depending on how easy it is to get someone on. And for today's episode, we have, and we'll be introducing him later. But to kick things off, we're going to talk about the longtime veteran brand Animal, who's basically announced that it's reformulating and relaunching its pump formula, Animal Pump, in a new powder version. The news came through earlier in the week, where the brand basically confirmed its intentions to create the product. It even reached out asking fans what they would like to see in the product, and it's definitely going to be interesting to see how this one turns out. Animal is a long-running brand, and the pump category has just been getting busier and busier over the past few months. In fact, last year we basically introduced a top 5 pump pre-workout list purely because there were just so many good competitors, especially Ghost Pump, who is still our reigning champ pump pre-workout, who just delivers on all fronts you could want. But it's going to be interesting to see what Animal comes up with. I've seen a lot of great comments about what people would like to see in the product. So we're hoping that this one turns out pretty good. Hoping to see it sooner rather than later. But next up, we've gone on to another brand, another long-time brand, who has kind of been a little bit more vague with its recent announcements, and that's Dedicated Nutrition. For 2019, the brand has basically put out a bit of an announcement saying that it's going to release 3 revamped supplements. Originally, it was confirmed that one of these products would be a capsule formula and 2 of them would be powder. They didn't say what these products were specifically going to be, but this past week it unveiled one of them. And it introduced basically a new version of Epic, which was it's essentially the brand's creatine supplement, or more of like a daily muscle building formula that contains beta-alanine, creatine, carnitine, estrogen, taurine. So that's the combination of ingredients in the previous version of Epic, and it is going to be changed for the new version. For now, the brand has only kind of confirmed that a new Epic is coming. It hasn't said what's in it or anything like that. But again, Dedicated was our brand of the year a few years back, and it's always seemed to deliver great products. In fact, it's pre-workout unstoppable. Every time they've released a new main version of it, it's taken the number 1 spot in our list of top 5 pre-workouts. So they're always a brand to watch. And like I said, they have 3 new products they're going to be introducing to start the year. And Epic's only one of them. We have high hopes that the other powder one is another version of Unstoppable. There was talk of it last year. So it does seem fitting that they have a new one coming early this year. But, only time will tell. It is going to be a story to watch because, like I said, every time Dedicated has done a new pre-workout, it's taken the number 1 spot. So we can only hope that, they're going to deliver on the hype. Next up, we have a review that we did this week. I'd like to talk about. We got our hands on Optimum Nutrition's protein wafers. Now, this is a very unique snack. It's kind of like, it's a little bit like their protein, their cake bites, in the fact that, you don't get one long bar in the pack, you get pieces. And so with the protein wafers, you get 2 little squares, and they both combine to give you about 15 grams of protein and anywhere from 190 to 210 calories. Now, I'm not a big wafer snack person, whether it be protein or not. But, you look at these and you kind of expect them, when you got them in your hand, you expect them to be a little bit crunchy, a little bit crispy, but that's not really the case. They're very soft. They don't really have that gritty, chalky aftertaste that you get with other protein snacks that, a little bit on the wafer side. It just it just basically crumbles when you bite into it. And I was very impressed with not only the consistency, but also the flavor. When you bite into it, the flavor doesn't hit straight away, but as you start chewing, you get the tastes. They kind of have this second win on you, and they definitely shine through. And each of the flavors we had delivered on their tastes very well. Which we had the chocolate and the chocolate raspberry cream. The raspberry was more or less my favorite, just because I'm a big berry fan when it comes to protein snacks. But it's a great alternative to your typical protein bar, and unlike most other protein snacks that aren't bars, the macros on this one, like I said, are pretty damn good at 15 grams of protein for around 200 calories. I will say that the snack is very similar to Mark Lobaner's outright protein wafer, which was launched a little before this, but it wasn't launched on like a full basis. Didn't come with full packaging, and it was only a limited time thing. I would say that these two are almost feel like practically the same thing. The only difference is I would say Optimum's one is a little bit better, mostly because of those flavors that it has with the chocolate and the chocolate raspberry. They just shine through a lot better, whereas Mark's one was a vanilla with a bit of honey, and it tasted more like just a plain wafer with hints of taste, whereas Optimum has really delivered a full experience with their protein snack. Moving on, we have another story from a big brand with Ronnie Coleman's Signature Series. We haven't heard from these guys in a while, but they sort of came out of left field and confirmed that this year they've got 3 all-new supplements dropping. We're not sure when they're coming, but they are coming this year. There's the fat burner called Lightweight Baby, play on Ronnie's classic quote that you see him throwing in videos. You have his testosterone booster, which will be called King Test. And then lastly, you have a unique protein snack, which we did actually sample previously, and it's called King Cake. Now this thing is very different. I have seen protein snacks similar in other parts of the world, but this is definitely gonna stand out. What it is it's basically a little cake mix, and it comes in a little pot that you would mix water in, throw it in the microwave for a minute, and then it comes out hot. It comes out as a high protein cake that's nice and warm, and you can just munch down. I don't know the macros on it. I haven't heard anything in that area. There is a picture of it. We've got it on our site, but hopefully we'll get the nutrition information soon. But the King Cake from Ronnie is actually dropping, meant to be within the next couple weeks. I don't know about the other supplements, the Lightweight Baby and King Test, but King Cake sounds like it's going to be hitting shelves very quickly. So if you're a Ronnie fan, or even just a fan of your alternative protein snacks, that is going to be one to keep an eye on. Now we move on to, again, another pre-workout from, I guess, a well-known brand in the industry, or at least on our side, with Procore, who basically, they took their pre-workout, Pre-RX, and then they just expanded the hell out of it and reformulated into an extremely loaded supplement, and it impressed the hell out of me when I saw the formula, because I did try the previous version. So what they've done is they've just turned it into a beast, and also put together 2 different versions, and these 2 different versions don't differ too much from one another, but they do offer slightly different experiences. So basically, the regular Pre-RX has just been stacked to the brim. It's a 23.2 gram serving size. You got 6 grams of citrulline, that's 3 grams of Creapure, 3 grams of betaine nitrate, 1.5 grams of Glycopump. You've got dynamine in there, Infinergy, dicaffeine malate, caffeine, of course, choline. It's just a full-on product, and so if you're one of those ones that likes the fat scoops like myself, then this is going to be one to try. In fact, we've actually already ordered ours, and we should be getting it in for review, or putting it to the test at least next week or the week after. But as for the other 2 versions, there is essentially a stimulant-free or a extreme version. We ordered the extreme version just because, for me, it drops the I believe it's the beta alanine and the creatine, and that they weren't really things that I was probably gonna miss. But in to make it an extreme version, they added in higher caffeine, extra stimulants. So for me, it's a nice trade-off. I prefer those extra additives, those extra added features, but we'll be interested to see how much it enhances and how well it does compared to the previous version. You can check out all the information on our site. Just go to the site, type in pre-RX or even just Procore. It should come up first. They even introduced it with a pretty solid sale where you could get any of the versions for $30, which is the regular price is $49.99, but that price is also the same across each of the versions, and they all have the same amount of servings with 20 per tub. So for our last story of our podcast today, we're going to talk about Pump Sports, who this week unveiled a reformulated version of its pre-workout Loaded. To go with this, we've actually brought on the man behind the brand to tell us a little bit about it, and as well as the product. So I'd like to welcome on Ben. How's things going?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Shane. Thanks for having me on the show. I'm a big fan of the site, so it's awesome to be on the show today talking about our new version of Loaded. So.
Yeah. So how long has the brand been around?
So we launched at the end of 2015 with a capsule fat burner called Activate. And that product's still around now, just not in the current updated packaging. And then we launched the original Loaded formula in the middle of 2016. So we're coming up to 4 years now.
Oh, nice. So yeah, this past week we saw. I'm assuming it was a lot of work went into it. With the reformulated version of Loaded, which I have to say. It's a big step up from the previous version, and the previous version, in my mind, was already a very good product.
We kind of wanted to make it a bit more modern and it really improve its look as well, its packaging. We were big fans of the previous version of Loaded, but we thought it fell short in kind of the marketing and the look of things. So everyone liked the formula, but it didn't quite stand out on the shelves as much as we wanted. And then also with time, new ingredients like Glycopump and that have come to the market. So we wanted to give the ingredient panel a bit of an update as well and kind of step things up there. So a bit of a complete overhaul, but we truly think now it really is a top shelf, complete pre-workout product. So we're very happy with it.
Yeah, I mean, I noticed the addition of the Glycopump and because citrulline, that wasn't in the previous one as well, correct? Or was that?
That's correct. So we just had agmatine and nitrosogene.
So like was there any kind of, were you aiming to up the pump? Because I would have to say those two ingredients would certainly or most likely enhance the pump noticeably compared to without it, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. So myself personally, I kind of formulate for what I look for in a pre-workout, and pump is really something that I enjoy, and I think most people who take pre-workouts love getting a good pump. So it's something that you can feel and get kind of instant satisfaction from your workout with it. So we really wanted to deliver in the pump category. So adding the citrulline and nicer pump was a great combination for that we found through trial and error to work really well for this new Loaded. So
yeah, I mean it's so I would assume that the other effects, the energy, the focus, and performance. Because I mean, if I remember correctly, the performance and endurance were two of the big effects from the original for me. I would assume that those are still on par with the original as well, or if not even better.
Yeah, definitely. So what we've kind of done with the 2 scoop doses, we've actually doubled the betaine and taurine. So like the endurance performance aspect of things should be even better at that 2 scoop dose. 3.2 grams of beta-alanine, so we upped that as well. So we truly believe it ticks all the boxes. And for the energy component, we didn't want to load up too much on caffeine. I'm not a huge fan of kind of 400 milligram plus formulas just because I believe it rules a lot of people out of the market and you can become really dependent on caffeine. So we wanted to keep it at around that 270 mark there, just under 300, so that people could play around with the dosing a bit but not get too carried away with the caffeine and use some of the other stimulants to get a bit of a kick as well.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on the caffeine. I look for the 350, and if I'm feeling a little bit more, or I need a little bit extra, I'm gonna get it from another source. I might just throw in like an energy drink or something. But yeah, I definitely see what you mean. We always kind of, when we post things, products with like half a gram of caffeine or upwards in that area, you always see people's reaction about, well, I'm not going to touch this. So I suppose it's always best to keep it moderate and let people do what they want with it. Since you made the pump so much better, I guess, in loaded, was there ever any plans to do a dedicated pump product, or is loaded just intended to be the all around one for you guys?
So there's definitely plans, and that's probably one of the next two products we're going to look to bring out. I'm a big fan of the Vaso 6 ingredient. I've been playing around with that a bit lately, so looking to do a pump product that'll feature that quite heavily. So yeah, definitely a pump product coming soon with some nootropics and things like that thrown in the mix. So that'll be a real performance non-stim pre-workout.
Nice, nice. And in terms of availability, because I know you guys are sort of a New Zealand-based brand, um, is there any places like in the US where you can pick up the brand, major places or like that?
So we've done some work with Tiger Fitness in the past, and we're hoping that they'll pick up this new version as well of the loaded. In the UK, we're working with a company called A-List Nutrition, who distribute core nutritionals and MTS nutrition over in the UK. So that's actually part of the reason why we took agmatine out of this,
Oh yeah, yeah,
because for some reason
yeah,
agmatine
yeah.
is not available in the UK. And then Australia is going to be a big target market for us with this version. So we're hoping to reach out to a few more stores over in Australia and get a bit of a presence there. And then that kind of leads into us next looking to powder capsule fat burner activate for the Australian market as well. So,
Awesome, awesome. Sounds good. Well, I mean, by the sounds of things, you've got a lot of exciting stuff coming. So hopefully, at some point later in the year, we might get you guys back on.
yeah, definitely. We'd love to launch things again with Stack because I believe it is the premium place for your supplement news and reviews and all that good information. So we'll definitely be in contact with whatever we have coming up.
And that wraps up the first Stacked podcast for 2019. Be sure to tune in again next week, as we do plan on making this a regular weekly thing, going over all the stories, or all the big stories from the past 7 days, along with more special guests. You can catch the podcast on all the usual podcast platforms, and we'll also be shouting it out on our social media platforms. Thank you.